What is going on, guys? Welcome to Southern Traditions for the Southern Drawl Podcast. Guys, it's a Sunday evening, and we are facing the potential for a major hurricane striking Central Florida. As we've already seen, the emergency management agencies are heavily stressed already trying to deal with damage and devastation in other parts of the country, which we have widely reported on. And now we're facing what is shaping up to be an absolute catastrophe for Florida, especially the west coast of Florida along Tampa Bay, Sarasota, even possibly up into the edges of the Big Bend. They are forecasting right now a Category 4 hurricane, possibly making landfall as a 3. There's even talk of it reaching Category 5 before it weakens. So a major hurricane bearing down on Florida. It is out in the Gulf right now. The warm waters of the Gulf are feeding this hurricane, and it hasn't even gotten to the hottest portions of the Gulf, that being the area of the Gulf of Mexico that feeds the Gulf Stream that comes up the east side of Florida. There is a lot going on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking to you about all this, but rather I'm going to let the experts do the talking. Guys, I'm just going to show you some of what's being reported right now from the meteorologists of Central Florida. And I would urge you very, very strongly, guys, if you are here in Central Florida like we are, please heed the warnings. Please heed the warnings. If they're telling you to evacuate, please, guys, get out. Get off those barrier islands. It's not worth staying there for those things. It's not worth being there for this storm when it comes in. They're talking about record storm surge, especially along the West Coast. So please, please, please heed those warnings. We have already ourselves, we've spent most of the day, that's why this is coming out so late. We've spent most of the day just running around, preparing, grabbing supplies, things. Well, luckily, we were already a little bit prepared from events that have already come our way over the last few weeks, but we still had to grab a bunch of stuff that we didn't have, and we still have more stuff to grab in the next day or so. So get prepared, stay prepared. But for now, we are going to jump into these meteorologist forecasts. So stay tuned right here on the Southern Drawl Podcast. Let's get it.
This also keeps it just to the north of Tampa. And if that happens, we would be talking about catastrophic storm surge in the Tampa Bay area. Perhaps 10 to 15 feet of storm surge would be possible. Now, granted, those are currently numbers that are still uncertain because we don't yet have a storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. And we're still not positive that this is going to make landfall just north of Tampa. Again, there is still a relatively large spread. This could make landfall from the Big Bend all the way as far south as like Cape Coral, even just south of there. But if this, for whatever reason, does decide to make landfall just north of Tampa Bay, we would be talking about catastrophic storm surge in Tampa, which again is something that we have never really seen in our lifetime in terms of a hurricane making landfall literally within like 20 or 30 miles of Tampa. And I'll show you the historical data, by the way, to back that up. In terms of major hurricanes, at least, we've never had a major hurricane do that. Then as we go throughout the day, this could be overnight Wednesday night to Thursday morning, or it could be during the day Thursday. It's still uncertain, but sometime between those two time frames, this will move over Central Florida, probably right up I-4, and then eventually it'll exit into the Atlantic Ocean. Another concern is that we are going to have a northerly wind that is going to intensify either Thursday or early Friday, and that'll bring the potential for storm surge into areas like Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Palm Bay. Basically, that entire stretch there could see some storm surge on the backside of whatever's left with this hurricane. Another concerning trend is, or not really, I would say not really a concerning trend, but something that's interesting is that this is actually going to become extra tropical as we go into Friday. It's just going to become a broad low pressure center. And so this is something that we do see sometimes with tropical systems. This particular system will eventually become extra tropical as we go into Friday.
So guys, this particular report is coming from Max Velocity Severe Weather Center on YouTube. You can check these guys out and follow them, subscribe to their channel. They do a lot of live streams like this. We watch them pretty frequently when there's weather events going on. that we're interested in keeping up with. And they are, as you can see, giving you some pretty good indications here. He's discussing all the different models that are out there right now. Some of the most consistent models have this thing coming across Tampa and basically traveling the I-4 corridor over towards the Space Coast where we are, making landfall somewhere around North Brevard, exiting Florida, somewhere around North Brevard County, which would put it anywhere from about, Vieira up to out of north of Brevard County up into Volusia County, which is New Smyrna Beach, Daytona area. Now, the significant thing to keep in mind here, the thing that's so troubling, is Tampa just had some of the highest and most devastating storm surge that they've ever experienced. That just happened to them last week. They've barely dried out, barely. I mean, in some cases, actually not, and all up and down the West Coast there in the Tampa area, they've still got debris piled up all along the roadways and along the neighborhoods that hasn't been cleaned up yet. We actually saw from Ron DeSantis earlier today that he's ordered, number one, for all of the landfill areas to be open 24 hours at this point, leading up to the storm. They are not closing. The landfills are staying open so that people can prepare and get this debris handled and disposed of. Citizens can do this on their own, but they've also enlisted I would assume the State Guard as well as the National Guard to the Tampa area and all along the West Coast there to help clean up that debris.
Florida National Guard, Florida State Guard, additional FDOT personnel, Florida Highway Patrol are all hands on deck for this debris removal mission in advance of Hurricane Milton. Over 800 guardsmen are currently deployed in impacted areas, and we are in process of mobilizing a total of 4,000 to be deployed throughout the state. National Guard's also deploying heavy equipment to assist with debris removal, including Army and Air Force horizontal construction units, tactical high water vehicles, dump trucks, and front-end loaders. Division of Emergency Management is coordinating with local EM directors to inform them of the debris waste and landfill sites that have been ordered to remain open 24/7 and are surging assets, of course, to supplement local debris removal coordination. Now, this is a 24/7 moment for this debris removal. You have a storm and then have one less than 2 weeks later, two majors back to back. That is not something that is easy. That creates a lot of challenges. And so what we have to do is just do it round the clock until it's no longer safe to do it. So that's what the state assets are doing. That is what the local assets need to be doing as well. This is not a 9 to 5 debris removal. You're not going to be able to get it done if you just do 9 to 5. So we need everybody doing 24/7. And we would also advise local governments to do what the state government is doing. If we have a dump truck at FDOT, and that dump truck's coming to pick up debris, the Helene debris in areas that are in the eye of the forecast for Milton. It doesn't matter if that was their normal task. We're marshaling that. So local governments, they have dump trucks, they have different things in different departments. Bring it all together for these next 48 plus hours so that we can get the debris as much as possible. You may not be able to get all of it. There is a lot of it. But, man, you can certainly make a difference on that. But it's got to be 24/7. Otherwise, the state will be able to help and we'll be able to make an impact. But we need everybody, all hands on deck on that.
Let's jump back in and listen to what the experts have to say instead of me running my mouth.
Inches of rain, but it does have some locations between Jacksonville and Tampa Bay picking up upwards of a foot and even in some cases over a foot of rainfall. That should remain a bit more isolated, but it is still going to be a threat. So make sure if you're in an area that's prone to flooding that you're staying vigilant with this particular threat. But I do think the most substantial rain is going to be on the north side of this hurricane. So if it does indeed make landfall in Tampa Bay, it'll more than likely impact areas along and just north of I-4. Another thing I want to point out is if it makes landfall further south like Cape Coral, it would be more of a rain threat for areas just between Daytona Beach and Cape Coral. So again, it's going to vary on where this makes landfall, but that's where we're expecting the more significant rainfall accumulation. This is the current forecast from the Weather Prediction Center in terms of rainfall expected out of this, at least the estimated forecast. They're a little bit conservative, I'd say, for right now in terms of rainfall accumulation, but nonetheless, I think this is still a pretty good forecast. They are showing that there is going to be a potential between Tampa Bay, Daytona Beach, and just north of Orlando to see somewhere between 8 to 12 inches of rain. Back up near Jacksonville right now, they're kind of on the cusp of like 3 to 6. It could be higher or lower just depending on where the eye exactly goes. But again, be prepared for worst case scenario. And then back over on the west coast of Florida, it's going to vary substantially, but most areas at least going to pick up 3 to 6 inches of rainfall. For the time being, there is currently a moderate risk for excessive rainfall across areas near Orlando, Tampa Bay, and just south of Jacksonville. We also have one back over in Miami. But again, if you remember from the Appalachian Mountain situation, this is a different situation because they're on mountains. Obviously, Florida is flat, but there was a high risk of excessive rainfall in those areas. So comparing and contrasting here, it's again two different situations, but a moderate risk for excessive rainfall is still very significant, and we are expecting some scattered flooding in those areas, potentially even numerous at times.
So just to make a point about what he's talking about there, thankfully Florida's flat. We don't have the hills to get that water cascading and at high speeds and carving out paths as it goes. However, Florida, do not get complacent. If you're here, you know that we are in most of the state. We are about 180% over what our typical rainfall is for this time of the year. The state is completely saturated. The grounds are saturated.
So out there tonight, we've got some rain. A lot of steady rain out there. Our radar is going to be busy in the days to come. We've got a lot more rain to the south here, from Tampa down to Fort Myers, Boca Raton, down towards Miami and the Keys. This is not directly related to the hurricane. There's a little area of low pressure over here that's going to skirt across the state tomorrow. And when it's off the East Coast, actually, there's a small chance it could become a tropical depression or a storm in the Bahamas tomorrow into Tuesday. That will be moving away from us, but you might not have heard about that. There's a little low right here that's going to track across South Florida and then may become a depression or something as we go into Tuesday. But just some rain tonight, some rain and showers on and off tomorrow, some rain and showers on and off on Tuesday. So one thing regarding the rain I want to bring to your attention is we have no more areas of the peninsula under drought. And in fact, it's been a very wet spell. This is the rain as a percent of normal in the last 30 days. And notice all the green, that's where the rain is well above average. This is the percent of average. So 2.3 times the average, so more than double, nearly double here by coastal Volusia, Flagler County, more than double the amount of rain, what's normal for the last 30 days. Why am I showing you this? Well, the ground is saturated. The ground is very saturated. And that may make us a little more susceptible to some wind damage because of how saturated the ground is.
Our water table, which is very shallow here in Florida, only a few feet down to get to the water table, is full. It's full to the point that all of our neighborhoods right now, I was just outside in my own neighborhood kind of doing some preparation, and all up and down the streets, the ditches are completely full of water. People's yards are sitting right now with standing water, and it is currently raining. It's been raining all day long today, and it's not supposed to stop until after this storm is gone. So there's right now a tropical low, or what is essentially a tropical low, that is approaching the state. It will become a tropical depression supposedly after it crosses over into the Atlantic. But that little low that's coming through before the hurricane is bringing a lot of rain in it all by itself, not to mention all the rain that we're seeing right now, which you can see on the radar there below, to the right. Let me see if you can see that, actually. Yeah, my face is kind of blocking it. Let me move this a bit. There, this radar right here that you can see just below his face there. All of that weather that's sitting on top of Florida right now is dumping rain on the state. We already have a ton of water in this state. There's nowhere for the water to go at this point. It's just backing up in people's yards and people's ditches. Just minor thunderstorms are bringing street flooding all over the county here in Brevard County, and I'm sure it's the same all over the state. And so I would just stress and reiterate the fact that once this storm hits and all of that rain comes from that hurricane, it's going to be very, very difficult to get out and drive anywhere, to be trying to get to safety. There's not going to be time for that, and it's not going to be very, very easy to accomplish once all the roads are covered in water, which is most likely going to happen. So prepare ahead of time, and just do everything you can to get your house ready. I know there's a lot of areas around the county here in Brevard, which I'm sure it's the same in all the other counties around the state, are issuing sandbags. Here in Brevard County, we can get 10 sandbags. They're down at the Brevard County, where is that? Not the jail, but the Brevard County work farm there, the sheriff's department work farm. I'll try to get the information for that so that I can post it, but nevertheless, Google it. I'm sure it'll pop up. You can get up to 10 sandbags at this point. Of course, this is Florida, so you could always make your own sandbags. There are little sand pits and sand traps all over. Just go find one, dig you up some sand. That's probably not what they want you to do, but who cares at this point? Go do what you got to do. Take care of your house. Aside from that, I would just say get water, get whatever foods and stuff you need. If you have a generator, you need fuel, you need all of that. You're going to need gas, and I can tell you we were out earlier today, and the gas stations are already a madhouse. Prices are decent, but the stations are a madhouse. They're going to start running out of fuel before long if we're not careful. So don't wait till the last minute. Batteries for flashlights, you should be getting that stuff right now. You should be looking for that stuff. You should be trying to get whatever you need to keep some light on if you lose power. Hopefully we don't lose power. If we do lose power, hopefully it's not for long. Ron DeSantis has done a great job of managing these types of events and these storms in the past. He did a great job just last week with Helene as far as Florida goes. Get prepared, guys. Get prepared, because this thing is going to be it's going to be extra frustrating. Let me just say that. It's going to be particularly difficult just because of the fact that there's so much water already on the ground. So we've had consistent rainfall here for the last couple of weeks at least. So the grounds are saturated. There's not a lot of places. It's going to take some time to dry out. So don't get caught with a bunch of water blocking your way or not letting if that happens, you're going to need to be able to stay where you're at and be able to handle things while you wait. So let's take a look at another site here.
This is Tuesday at 8 a.m., right off of Cozumel, right off of the northern Yucatan. Then by Wednesday at 9 a.m., the GFS has it well offshore. So the time, and one of the runs that we have here locally is doing the same thing, very slow. And then a landfall, not until, this is the very latest run, just came in. Look at that. It's up towards Crystal River, up towards Hernando County with a landfall Wednesday night. The timing has completely slowed on this. This is the European forecast model. We'll get another one of these. This is Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then landfall would be Wednesday evening along Tampa. The Hurricane Center is faster than that. So there's a lot of disagreement here in the forecast model. So what we want you to know is that we're looking at where it goes on landfall, because that's where you're going to get the worst surge, to that point and points to the south of it. But what I want to show you right here, the yellow, the orange, and the red, those are the hurricane force winds. This is going to be similar to Helene. In fact, that instead of a storm this big, you're going to get a storm this big. And so everybody's getting wind, right? Not everybody's getting water. You can see it right there. That's where we have it moving on shore. This would be Wednesday afternoon. But look at that orange. That's 60 mile per hour winds, sustained with gusts in the 80s. Look at that, covers almost from Crystal River down to Venice and Vamo, all the way out to Highlands County, all of Polk County, right? Everybody's going to get some wind. And depending on exactly where it goes, we'll see who gets the highest, obviously, if it's around the center. So if you're asked to evacuate, please do so. They're doing it for a reason. This is just the latest forecast from the Hurricane Center, and you can see they have it coming in right here. All right, they had it coming in down here. But you get the idea. If the storm comes in here, because of the way that the winds flow around and counterclockwise, you get the worst surge right here. You're going to get winds like this up here. So it blows a lot of the surge out, although we got to watch part of the bay.
So as you can see, guys, there is still a lot of disagreement as to where the storm's going to end up. There's still a lot is up in the air at this point. I've heard a couple of the meteorologists saying that tomorrow morning, maybe even tomorrow lunchtime will be the best time to check in and see exactly where the storm's going. That doesn't leave you a lot of time to prepare. There's still so much time for this storm to change directions. They are pretty consistent on the fact that it's going to hit Florida, but as to where it's going to hit Florida, that's really the question at this point. Is it going to go a little further to the south? Is it going to go a little further to the north? Doesn't really matter as far as winds go. As you just saw there, the whole state's going to feel these tropical storm to hurricane force winds. The question is, where is the storm surge going to be the heaviest on the Gulf Coast? And that's really the big question here, because they have already been hit so hard. So keep in mind, once this thing goes to move off into the Atlantic, there are going to be storm winds coming back from the east towards the west, and that has the potential to push some storm surge I've seen as high as 6 to 8 feet up into the shorelines of the East Coast. A lot to think about, guys. As you can see, those spaghetti models are pretty consistent going across Florida. It's just how far south, how far north. That's what they're still up in the air about.
Wednesday. So what this basically means is this is your probability of these areas exceeding that flash flood guidance within 25 miles. So this area highlighted right here has a 40% seeing that excessive rainfall that would exceed guidance for flash flooding within 25 miles of this point. So as you get into the yellow section, that drops down to a 15% chance. But don't forget, that's within 25 miles of a point. So if you're on that borderline, you could have that higher flash flood expectation if you are basically for Tampa Bay. On Futurecast here, this is our high-res model. You can see most of that rain hanging out around Manatee and Sarasota County for tonight. Into tomorrow morning, most of the rain looks like it wants to be concentrated across the East Coast. But again, we have plentiful moisture in our atmosphere, and any downpour is not doing us any service as far as it comes to evacuating. So again, the evacuation orders will still pop up. Those are just the first initial ones that we have right now. Make sure you know your zone, and you don't have to evacuate far. You don't have to go 100 miles away. Just 10 miles away, your best situation here would move northward. Of course, we will have some hurricane watches, warnings, as well as storm surge watches and warnings later on tonight. Your 7-day forecast, we have a weather impact alert set.
So she makes a good point here, guys. You don't have to get out of the state necessarily. You don't have to pack up and travel up to Georgia or somewhere like that. You just need to get off the coast. If nothing else, get off the coast, get off those barrier islands. That's what's going to be most important and would greatly increase your safety if you could do that.
It's best to put a tarp down up against the door if that's what you're preparing. Put that down first. That's watertight. Put the bags on that. That will hold it and really help to protect the water from getting in there. All right, here are the numbers right now. As you can see, 85-mile-per-hour winds. The latest track has nudged to the north just a little bit. But look at those numbers right there, 145-mile-per-hour winds. That would be during the day on Tuesday. Tuesday night's approaching us. It looks like we're dealing with this on Wednesday. There will be some wind shear that comes down from the north and the west here that's going to be pushing on this. And because of that, we think it will weaken a little bit. And even this forecast may change a little bit. But there's so many questions up in the air right now that we still don't know exactly where this is going to go. We do know it's been rapidly intensifying throughout the day today. Pressure's down, wind is up. Movement's now to the east at around 7 miles per hour.
Thank you for watching. I'm Peter Bush.
And I'm Kelly Burns, along with meteorologist Allison Ray at Rob Dunn's. Let's start right now with that advisory on Hurricane Milton.
Right, so this is a powerful storm that's only going to gain strength and size, and that's going to be important as we watch the storm surge forecast come Wednesday as this storm continues to get bigger and bigger. For now, it's a small storm in size. It's very intense. It's very compact. But going through the next few days, as it gets more intense, as it gets to a major hurricane, it's going to get a little bit bigger. And that's going to change things up greatly for who is impacted specifically when it comes to storm surge. It is going to be smaller than relative to a storm like Helene, but it's still going to have impacts far and beyond where it makes landfall. Right now, with the latest information that we have moving off to the east at 7 miles per hour. That easterly motion is going to be key because if it continues to track to the east, it's kind of getting pushed to the east with the front right now, but then it's going to pick up its forward speed as it approaches Florida. So we are at 85 mile per hour winds. The pressure continues to drop. As that pressure continues to drop, we'll expect that storm to intensify. If you live near water, if you're on a barrier island, they've made those evacuations, the mandatory evacuation for Fort Myers Beach. Hey, Charlotte County, Barrier Islands, if you are living on those islands, even Pine Island, so Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Captiva, you don't want to be there. Come Tuesday, Wednesday, make some preparations to be on the mainland. You don't have to find a hotel in Orlando. Find a friend on the mainland and get there to be safe. The water, even if it's 6 inches high, no one can drive to help you if needed. You will be stuck on that island for an extended period of time.
So the wind scale, remember, Category 4, the hurricane scale only tells you the sustained winds. Nothing about the rain, nothing about the surge. Scale just tells you the sustained winds, and you can see the categories there. Category 5 is 157 plus, 130 to 156 is Category 4, which is the expectation, at least as of right now. You might think Helene may have weakened the water temperatures. It has not. They are lower, but they're still at record highs overall for the Gulf. But something else to know is this loop here I've drawn. That's called the loop current. So that's the very hot water that starts in the Caribbean. This is always here. It comes up, does a loop, hence the name loop current. This is very hot ocean water. This is like, where the river of water is going. Comes up, does a loop, goes south of the Keys, then off the East Coast. That's the Gulf Stream that it becomes. And this will cross right over that Tuesday night. That's the hottest water in the Gulf. So it'll be interesting to see is between this point and this point, probably more so about here, maximum intensity. And if it's going to reach Category 5, it would probably be between here and here. After about this point, some wind shear will come in and it should start to weaken and decay. But again, that's very misleading. I don't want you to hear that and think that it's going to go poof and go away. That's not the takeaway from the category changing.
Hashtag Hey Jeff, if we get worst case scenario, how far inland would water go into the city of Tampa?
Yeah, that is a very hard question to answer because it really depends upon each individual neighborhood. There's Hyde Park, there's Channelside, there's downtown Tampa, there's Ybor City, and there's places in and around the Hillsborough River. You can bet that the surge, if it goes into Tampa Bay, is heading up the Hillsborough, up the Alafaya River. So it really just depends upon where you're located and the elevation of that land. In some places, it'll only get, a half a block in. And in other places, it could go
half a mile in.
Yeah.
Again, make sure if you're right along the coastline that you are evacuating. But again, you don't even have to go that far from Tampa. I mean, you could even go 10 miles, 15 miles inland, like as long as it's away from the coastline and you're not, again, in an area that's prone to storm surge. But
so that is the latest, guys. That's the latest right now. I would encourage every one of you keep an eye on this, especially if you're here in Florida. Obviously, we've got a lot of concerns about flooding and about weather, just about the weather in general. There's just so much water already on the ground. So we need to keep that in mind. There's not a lot of places for this water to go. If you're not prepared already, if you haven't been getting your stuff together, your batteries, your gas cans, all the things you need to ride this storm out. If you're planning to evacuate, I would say get to the gas station soon because they are already under attack by everybody. It was very hectic today, just trying to get some gas. So I would just say prepare early. I know they're talking about Tuesday night, possibly Wednesday, and then you just heard him say some of these models have it coming in even on Thursday. So I don't know. There's still so much up in the air as far as this thing goes. They're trying to nail things down. We will obviously report a little bit more to you about what's going on in the days to come. We're not leaving. We're going to be staying here. I think we're going to be reporting all through the storm as much as we can, so long as the power doesn't go out, or if it does, we'll try to give you guys updates from our cell phones as long as these cell phone towers don't go out. And if that happens, then we'll see you guys on the other side, man. until then, we will chat with you probably tomorrow. Hope everyone's out there is safe. Be in prayer for Florida. Be in prayer for North Carolina, Tennessee. Those guys are still dealing with so much up there. A lot of developments there that we'll try to talk about tomorrow as far as what's going on up there. There's been a lot of new reports, a lot of new information coming out as far as what the government's doing, what they're trying to do, who's doing what, that sort of thing. Anyway, guys, look out for your neighbors. I mean, if you don't know your neighbors, get to know your neighbors. We're living in a weird time right now where we seem to be better off banding together as communities. It's the way it should be anyway, if you ask me. But that's what we do here. We know everybody up and down our streets by name. We talk to them all the time. I mean, literally everybody all the way down both sides of the street. People on the other street behind us, we know those people. Like, we even know a couple of people on the street across the way over there. So community is very important, guys. Very, very important. You don't always have to see eye to eye on things, but it's good to know that you know people well enough that you got each other's backs and you can help take care of each other, especially in events like this. So, that being said, guys, stay safe, stay free, be blessed. Peace.